What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy DaVon Lewis. Welcome to my show. Appreciate you guys coming out. Just kicking off my 2024. As I'm getting to details, basically just finished watching TNA Hard. It was a phenomenal show from start to finish. And if you guys are just coming out, just making your way through here, showing some love, I appreciate you guys. Feel free to come through. There's likes up, share up to people who are preferring to professional wrestling. But other than that, let's get into the details of everything. I'm gonna give couple people a little bit more time to come on in, and then we get things started from there. Let's see. Alrighty, come on in, ladies and gentlemen, take your time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, come on in. If you're into basically professional wrestling, we just had a return of TNA Wrestling, which basically made their return to their format. Basically, everything moved when it comes to the show tonight. It was a phenomenal. We had a return of Dolph Ziggler, Nick Namath, one of the hottest things in new signing for TNA Wrestling. We basically had him come on through and basically signed with the company. That was a big love, big support when it comes to seeing that. That was something that nobody was expecting, seeing where he was going for himself, but pretty much appreciated seeing where he was going with himself in the long run. Other than that, let's get into the show. Basically, everything that was going on. Starting off with the pre-show, everything was looking good. We had a start-off match. It was Rich Swann versus Steve Maclin. It was basically starting off with the pre-show. They started off with a lockup, and then Swann hit it up with the dive off the top ropes, basically, and then Maclin dictated the pace of the match. And Maclin ground Swann with a couple of chops, and then he did a couple of knee drops in his back off the bat. And then he hit him with a 450 splash off the second rope for a kick out. Then they go off the top again, and then of course Maclin pushes Rich Swann down and then dropped a couple of knees again. And then Maclin basically topped Swann with a Boston crowd once they basically reached the ropes again, which that was like a nice little spot. And then he hit him with a springboard cutter, and then springboard kicked him for a near fall. Maclin then caught him with a crosshairs, followed with the Kia for the win, which was phenomenal for Steve Maclin, basically picking up that victory. And then they jumped over to the next segment, which was the backstage segment. They had Gia interviewing Eddie and Alicia Edwards, along with Brian Myers and Moose, and then former NFL player D'Angelo Williams. He was known for basically working TNA back in the past, a couple of years back. It was nice seeing him making his touch and come through. And it was a good little segment for them. Basically seeing them, they basically is a new group, and when it comes to the TNA wrestling, they basically calling themselves the system. Basically starting off saying basically they're looking to take over TNA wrestling. But we shall see what happens in the long run. You never know what will happen. And it will be highly interesting for the most part, as we will see for the most part. Then we jumped over to the next segment. We had DJ Who Kid. Basically, he's a long-time professional wrestling fan. He enjoyed wrestling from a long ways. Basically, he decided to make his appearance with AJ Francis. Also, if you know AJ, he's basically known as Top Dollar from WWE. Basically, he was released a couple months back, and he made his return, and then came back from there, and basically just been phenomenal from there. Basically, they did an ending segment with Top Dollar, started rapping and everything like that. Then they had an appearance by Joe Hendry. He basically came out and kind of spoiled the whole process of everything that was going on for the most part. He told what Francis basically welcome to TNA. He threw off with a new music video, and then DJ Who Kid smashed him with a laptop, basically knocking out Hendrick. And then we had Francis hit a choke slam, basically to end that segment off the bat when it came to that segment with AJ Francis making his debut over in TNA for Hard to Kill, which was a nice little touch up in a nice little segment. And from there, we jump over to the next thing that was going on. We had the system, the new, basically the new brand on the block, basically the new faction. We had Eddie Edwards, We have Brian Myers. We had two taking on Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian, which is long TNA fans. Basically, they've been there since the beginning, TNA originals from start to finish. Couldn't go wrong with them whatsoever. They've always been phenomenal and great when it comes to being the cornerstone, the one of the pillars of basically TNA wrestling. Couldn't go wrong with them whatsoever. Always enjoyed Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian's work for the longest. It's kind of nice seeing them basically getting the reboot and restart of getting themselves back together as they basically going to a nice tag team match against Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, which that will be basically kind of like a good little intertwined tag team match with them. And we shall see what happens in the long run. But let's go back into the match actually for that tag team match. Kazarian and Edwards start off with tag trades while working with Myers early on. Eddie Edwards and Kazarian came to blows as they renewed their 2023 rivalry, as they both took on each other back in the past and basically traded a couple of shots. And of course, EY escaped with a backpack stunner. Then they collide with each other into a double cross body. Kazarian got the hot tag, landed the springboard leg drop, and Myers followed up with a slingshot cutter. Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers hit off with a double team Kazarian, but they kicked out. EY put Eddie Edwards out with a drop kick and also with a nice I'm pretty. That was a nice little segment seeing that. And then EY landed with an elbow drop and Kazarian picked him off with a near fall. Brian Myers hit him off with Kazarian with a roster cutter. And then Edwards hit him with a Boston knee party for a pin. And then the new tag team on the block, basically the system, picked up the victory with a nice little quick tag team match. It was kind of entertaining seeing that. The kickoff basically hard to kill. Couldn't go wrong with that whatsoever. And if you guys are into wrestling, feel free to share it with your friends and family, anybody who's into wrestling. I'm doing a review of TNA Wrestling if they're still a long-time fan of it. I appreciate family, friends coming out, showing their support and love, even if you just swing by for a little bit. Even if you want to share love, basically feel free to drop a love, or if you're on a YouTube channel, basically hit over with a super chat, which will be beneficial for myself, and then also to show your love and support when it comes to me in the long run. If you're coming over from any of my other platforms, including Twitter, feel free to put in some hearts or love, or also I have my Cash App as well at DaVon Lewis, $, DaVon Lewis 323, and go from there. But let's get back into it. The pre-show, which was a phenomenal show, I enjoyed for the long run. We had the TNA Digital Championship that was on the line in a no DQ match. We had the champion Tommy Dreamers taking on Crazy Steve. That was kind of like a little oddball match, but it kept the fans invested. They were coming out right now from TNA. It was in Las Vegas. Tommy Dreamer started off strong when he was charging Crazy Steve on a phenomenal text. And then, of course, Crazy Steve had to do one of his kind of little odd, weird things. He bit him in the forehead, did a couple little his spots that he's normally known for, hit him with a trash can. Then Crazy Steve hit him with a drop kick off the ropes. Steve struck him with a chair in the back. Steve propped him with a chair, and then Dreamer did a crossbody with us setting Steve up on the chair. Steve picked up Dreamer's from apart, and then he pulled a fork out from his boot. And then he basically could try to stab Tommy Dreamers with a fork, but basically Tommy Dreamers blocked it and preventing that kind of altercation in the long run. But I'm glad that nothing came out of that, because that would have been something a little bit more crazy from seeing that from Crazy Steve. But they went back into trading blows back and forth. Steve was able to get a chair, and then he was able to set Tommy Dreamers in the corner, basically set him up with a chair and around his neck. And he could trade shots with Kendo stick and basically getting the fans to pop with a holy shit chant, which was kind of interesting seeing that. We don't see a lot of hardcore stuff like that or normally, but basically seen a little bit of side of them doing that with the digital championship. Was kind of something interesting in the long run, and I enjoyed seeing that. It was kind of hilarious at some point, but at the same time, it could have got a little bad, or it could have got a little bit gruesome. Going over back over it, basically Steve was able to grab a black bag. Then he taped Tommy Drew's hands together. Then he wanted to tape a fork in the bag, and then Steve shoved it down Tommy Drew's shirt before kicking him. And then Steve hit him off with a cannonball onto Dreamers. And then he hit him to DDT off the ropes for the win. And then he became a new digital media champion, which I was kind of one of those little high spots, but kind of interesting in the same sense of seeing Crazy Steve doing something like that. But now gaining another singles championship, which was long overdue. It's been a while since we've seen that from Crazy Steve. And we'll see what happens in the long run with that feud. Maybe they'll revisit again later on during the line on TNA, and we shall see what happens. Let's get back into everything. We started kicking off. Basically, Hard to Kill was kicked off by Eric Young. He's one of the long star pillars of TNA Wrestling. He's been great, phenomenal pillar. He's been the TNA original for the longest. He's always there showing his love and doing his thing when it comes to that. Basically, he voiced it, the code opening, basically saying we're basically in a new era of TNA Wrestling. He walked through the tunnels. He basically had the roster behind him on the stage set up and basically presented himself by saying that we're back and we're not going anywhere and we're making our return. It was a nice little setup seeing him back in TNA Wrestling, basically saying they're officially back to do great things when it comes to this company. So we shall see where TNA goes from here. TNA has a lot of straight history when it comes to professional wrestling, and it's great to see them making their official return. But we kicked it off with our first match of the night for Hard to Kill, the actual official pay-per-view match. We had Giselle Saul in a Knockouts Ultimate X match. We had Giselle Saul. We had Zaya Brookside. We had Jody Threat versus Tasha Steelz, who won the previous Women's Ultimate X. Then we had Alicia Edwards, and then we had Dana Luna. These women are all basically great showcase. They basically put out their hard work and basically did everything they possibly can for this match, and they basically couldn't go wrong whatsoever. And I enjoyed this Women's Ultimate X for the majority of it. Couldn't go wrong with it whatsoever. Luna and Zaya basically started off finding themselves in the ring alongside by being tossed out the seasonal roster members. And then they basically started working on drop kicks and getting all the original TNA women out the match, majority of the match. Then they slide through and then did a couple of chops. And then Zaya ended up throwing a clothesline to Shaw. And then pump kicked Zaya into the face, landing a corner uppercuts. And then Threat stripped Luna and Alicia into the ropes while running with a knee drop into exploder suplex near the ropes. Zaya also basically hit off with a couple of more chops into their corner. They did a couple of high spots, but this match was kind of interesting seeing these ladies giving basically all when it came to basically push themselves hard as they can when it came to trying to win this match. And they did a lot of great shots, including Alicia Edwards. She was one of their main ones. She was doing a lot of bumps in this match. She gave her all within this match. And it was a couple of little mix when it came to Tasha Steelz. She did a couple of cutters off the top of the ropes, including with Luna doing a couple of high spots with the Tower of Doom on the other side. And then, of course, Shaw hit her up with a power bomb. Then Luna and Threat basically traded a couple blows before Luna did a double suplex into Steelz and Threat. Alicia crawled over to the cable until Luna pulled her off the ropes and continued to hit her with a couple of kendo sticks, basically, and then hit her with a longer blow. Alicia also hit a flatliner on Luna. Then Threat hit Alicia and Zaya with a double F5. And then Tasha Steelz ended up coming back into his match, ended up hitting Tornado DDT. And then Luna went for the first fall, followed with Steelz. And Steels and Shaw basically went to the top of the ropes, basically climbing to try to win the Ultimate X, but ultimately ended up being Giselle Saul ended up winning this match. It was kind of interesting seeing her making her debut, but she ended up winning and now basically won an opportunity at becoming the TNA Women's Champion. Basically, she had a future date with the ex that she pretty much was presented with when it came to climbing the ladder. It's basically a ladder match combat, and she ended up getting a future date for that. Then we move on to the next match. It was PCO versus Dirty Dango. That match was kind of interesting. Um, for off the gates, basically Dirty Dango got on the mic for a second to express that he hated for TNA. Then PCO came out through the entrance to reveal that it was him. And then of course, he went on the offense with a couple of clotheslines, and then PCO sent Dango to the outside to go for a dive through the ropes. And then they traded blows back into the inside before PCO went to the top. But then Bravo interfered, and which caused a DQ. This match was quick, fast and paced, but it set up more on the lanes. Basically, Dirty Dango and Bravo ended up beating down PCO until Rhino made his way out, and Rhino wanted to set up a match in a tag team match between himself and PCO against Dirty Dango and Bravo. We shall see what that goes on in the future, but of course, this is like it's going to be a new feud when it comes to TNA wrestling, and we shall see what happens in the long run. PCO, the new GMs, Santino Marella came out. He basically said it's not going to be until 2 for this match. They basically rescheduled the match for right then and there, and it was a setup for a 3-on-3. And then he introduces Jake Something as the third person that came on to the match. And so they set it up: Jake Something, Rhino, and PCO versus Dirty Dango, Bravo, and then Oleg Profio, which is former Kozlov when he was in WWE. So they started off going into a couple of near falls, couple of headlocks, couple of transitional moves between PCO and Dirty Dango. Then they moved over to the apron where PCO basically hit him with a senton over to the outside. And then back into the inside. He rolled him back into the inside. And then, of course, start off with the great tag and then threw a couple clotheslines. Rhino comes in for the hot tag. He attacks a leg. And then he also attacks Dango and does a couple of his high spots, including the spine buster, and hit him up with a few clotheslines from there. Then the match continues with a couple of near falls, with a couple of spots. And PCO does a corner lunge blower, follow up with a leg drop. And Rhino and Oleg come face to face with each other, trading blows. Then Dango basically hit Rhino in the hair with a launcher, and then Dango fell to the mat from that. Then Rhino gores on accident because they the way, and Dirty Dango rolls out the ring, letting Bravo take basically the majority of beating as Dango basically left towards the entrance ramp. Then PCO went to the top, landed a PCO moonsault, including with Rhino hitting the gore. And then Jake Something hitting his finisher as well, which caused them three to end up winning, which it was PCO, Rhino, and Jake Something coming off with the victory, which was kind of interesting seeing what was going on with that match. We go over to the backstage segment. We had a mysterious woman arrive at the venue before MK Ultra suddenly makes their way to the ring, and they demand that they have a tag team match, which the announcers were kind of surprised on that as they were basically making their way out for this match. It was them coming down, demanding a match, so they went for that and then allowed the ladies go ahead and get the thing started when it came to that. But then we had a returning Decay making their return when it came to that match in general. And it was nice seeing Decay making their return and it was Rosemary and Havoc basically being that element and being that team together as they took on um, Masha and then also Killer Kelly, which they've been the TNA Women's Tag Team Champions for up to almost close to a year now. It's been interesting seeing their turnabouts of how they've been doing and how they've been working together and forming a team and then and having a chemistry with each other. We shall see when it comes to that, where the future holds, if they're going to resign back with TNA. We haven't heard any words yet of where MK Ultra will be going from this point, but we shall see what happens in the long run. But those ladies are a great tag team, and we would love for them to stay back here in TNA Wrestling. Let's get back into the match that went on. We had Rosemary and Havoc dominated early on. And then Killer Kelly came in, slammed Masha into Rosemary. And then Kelly came off with a running kick. And then Rosemary came off with a couple of near counters. And then Kendra continued to work on counter on double clotheslines and a couple of double team finishers. And then Kelly clotheslined Rosemary off the ring. And Havoc ended up coming for the save and landing a double choke slam. And then Havoc laid out Kelly and then pinned her for the win for the 1, 2, 3. As we end up having MDK becoming the new TNA Women's Tag Team Champions. It was a nice scene seeing them coming off with the victory. And Decay was missing for a little while. If you want a little backstory, Decay was missing for a little bit of time. They took some time off, healing from injuries, and then they decided to come back as a tag team, and it ended up winning. And seeing Rosemary coming back and Havoc still being in the same form after having a couple of knee injuries, and they ended up becoming the new women's tag team champion. But now we getting on to the next match, which was kind of great. It was the X Division match. It was Chris Sabin, Kushida versus Del Vikingo. He's a AAA Mexican champion right now, and he's made his way over to TNA for a visiting match, which basically was a three-way match. They started off pretty hot and very quick. This match was very high-paced, very quick off the back. I really enjoyed this match for the most part, and I couldn't ask for a better match of these three-man basically displaying on good professional wrestling. They came to a quick stall when it came to the action, and they picked up again. Then Kushida hit a double kicks, and then he kicked him and sent him to the floor. Kushida launched him off the apron, wiped off Sabin. Then Kushida brings in Vikingo back into the ring and then tries to work his left arm. The Vikingo quickens the pace again. And Vikingo hits Kushida with a Hurricanrana off the corner. And then Kushida locks up Vikingo on the mat, and then Sabin and chops Kushida, which wrenches Viking's leg, and Kushida suplexes Sabin with the ankle lock still in. And then Kushida money flips. Vikingo also flips into Sabin. Then all three men go down, and the crowd chants for them. That this is awesome, and the fans are highly invested throughout this whole entire match as they are trading blows, doing their signature moves back and forth with each other, and keeping the fans invested. Chris Sabin is a phenomenal actor. He's been there. He's a TNA original as well, as he knows how to flow the match when it comes to the fans. He knows how to gauge with them and keep them highly invested and know what spots work when it comes to his matches that he's always delivering. That's usually why they have him as a TNA X Division champion, because they needed a veteran that was there that knew how to pace the match and keep the match flowing for the most part. Right, let's get back to it. Basically, we had Chris Sabin on the ramp, and then he did a 450 splash onto Vikingo, and then Vikingo goes to the top ropes and then wipes out Kushida, and then he does a hover lock onto the top and then onto the mat as well. Basically, it was a rolling two back into the ring. Sabin broke it up with Kushida, and then Kushida tapped Sabin to a hoverboard as well. Basically, he flipped him into it, and then was able to get Chris Sabin as well, as he got Vikingo, and he was able to get Chris Sabin into the lock as well. Kushida hit a heel kick, then he goes up to the top rope, and the Sabin flips him into running back, and then tosses Kushida into a German suplex. Then Sabin lifts Kushida and then managed to hit him with the Crater Shock for the 1, 2, 3 for the win, and retains his X Division Championship. That was a great match from start to finish. I praise that they continue to keep the belt on Chris Sabin. He's one of those pillar storms when it comes to how he works his pace, how he works his matches. He's been doing really, really well, and I enjoy his matches overall. So we shall see where he does from there. He got recently just re-signed back with TNA Wrestling as being a veteran to help the young guys figure out their spots and where they fit in, and go from there. So we jump back into things. We get into the match of probably the match of the night, close to it. It was Josh Alexander versus Alex Hammerstone. Couldn't ask for a better hard-hitting match between these two. These two really seem like they have really great chemistry when it comes to how they pace themselves, how they work themselves, and how they figure themselves out when it comes to the signature hairlocks, how they connect with each other, and how they figure themselves out. Couldn't go wrong with these two. Josh Alexander and Alex basically tore the house down from start to finish, the way how they worked themselves and what's hidden in their pivot moves, including their arm drags, including the leg locks, and doing traditional technical wrestling. That's what basically we want to see when it comes to professional wrestling in the long run. It's just full on technical wrestling from start to finish. It's good to see those kind of hard hitting matches where it could be strong style and be traditional when it comes to techniques and doing technical moves from all around. Can't go wrong with that whatsoever. Um, the match continued with the pace, which was a dragon screw from Alexander, which he hit basically on Alexander onto Hammerstone, and then twist him into a little ankle wrench. And then they worked each other into whipping each other into the ropes, counter moves, couple suplexes, belly to belly suplexes on the fly. They both were escaping shoulder arm wrenches with each other. They did a couple apron spots, really just going nose to nose with each other. And you couldn't go wrong with that whatsoever. And I enjoyed it when it came to them really hitting the Trey chops, when they were going back and forth with the suplexes, and when they were in the ring doing the most phenomenal setups 100%. Couldn't go wrong with them whatsoever. When Hammerstone hit him with a scoop slam, also Josh was basically trading a couple shots back and forth. Hammerstone hit him with a couple of moves and hit him on the bottom rope. Hammerstone hit him with his left leg against it and then managed to hit a nightmare pin down, which is one of the phenomenal moves that you can get from a big man like when it comes to Alexander. Can't go wrong with that whatsoever. Alexander is a big dude as well, and he did what he could in the long run when it came to that. Alex landed a missile drop kick off the top rope, followed by a TKO for the cover, but it was a 2 count. They traded blows in the center until Josh hit him with a rolling forearm. Hammerstone turned Josh inside out before hitting a German and a sit-down powerbomb for a near fall. Josh forearmed him into the net, threw a couple of Germans, and then a C4 spike connect, and then Josh Alexander ended up picking up that victory. I look forward for those two going at it again. Those two seem like they really are figuring themselves out and building the chemistry. If they continue to go on in the long run, I would not have no complaints whatsoever. If they continue to build a bond and a chemistry to go one-on-one against each other. So I look forward to seeing them going at it again in the future, regardless of where they go in their life when it comes to wrestling. Can't go wrong with those two. Next, we get into the TNA World Tag Team Championship. We got ABC, we got the Grizzled veterans, and then we got the Rascalz, and then Mike Bailey and the Colorado Kid. This match was hard paced. It kept the fans highly invested. You couldn't go wrong when it came to this 4-way tag team match. They did the best they can when it came to showcasing the match. I'd probably say this probably was the second best match of the night overall when it came to how they presented themselves, how they were doing transitional tag team moves, doing high spots, including a couple bumps, doing a couple of chops, and kept a strong style throughout the whole match until we transition towards the end of the match. We had ABC and the Rascalz giving their all when it came to hitting their signature moves, having a connection. I look forward for those two building a bond over time. And we ended up having the victory for that match. It was ended up being ABC who ended up picking up the victory for that four-way match, and they ended up retaining their tag team championships, which you couldn't go wrong with that whatsoever. I enjoy Chris Bay, and I enjoy that group of how they could present themselves. You can't go wrong with ABC, and they're pretty much handling business as usual, still retaining their tag team championship. Then we move on to the Women's World Championship. We had Trinity versus Jordynne Grace. This match was quick pace, strong a little bit, but Jordynne Grace is a beast. She's been running ruckshod over the women's division, and she's been doing her thing. You couldn't ask for a great match. If this is Trinity's last match, from rumors that people have been speculating that this could be her last match, we shall see what happens in the long run. But Trinity gave it all. These women went back and forth. They traded blows with each other. They hit a couple of power slams with each other, a couple of high spots off the ropes, and they could not go wrong when it came to these women. Women did everything they possibly could when it came to how they handled themselves, presented themselves, hitting a couple of tactical moves, including clotheslines, hit a couple of high spot clotheslines and dragon whips. Also, we had Trinity hitting a jackhammer, which is kind of interesting seeing that. But Grace basically regained that on her footing and was controlling the majority of this match. This match, I gave it a C plus, but it was okay for what it was. And you couldn't go wrong with these women. These women really felt like they left everything in the ring from start to finish, from every single move, including when they was hitting the moonsaults to when they were hitting the muscle buster, that was a nice little nod to Samoa Joe from Jordynne Grace doing that over on Trinity. We also had Trinity hitting the Starstruck and then hitting the Review, which that was a kind of like little setup of her hitting her former moves and sticking to it. But they really went back and forth and traded a couple blows. That's concluded close to when Trinity hit Grace with a sit-down powerbomb and then tried to hit the Starstruck again. Grace standed up, applied Trinity into the ropes and hit the leverage, and then pivoted her into a German suplex. Then hit her with a spinning back fist, and then Grace followed up with the Juggernaut driver, which hit her for the 1, 2, 3. That match was good from start to finish, and we shall see what happens in the long run if this feud continues or if Trinity is on our way out the door heading over to WWE. We shall see what happens, but these women really put on a show and a showcase, and I really enjoyed this match, and you couldn't go wrong with it whatsoever. Also, we had a surprise up there as well at that match. We had Dana Brooke, now known as Ash by Elegance. She was at ringside with her prompidant and her butler there, and she was portraying a new persona, and she joined in TNA Wrestling, which is kind of odd and kind of weird. We'll see how she does in TNA. She's kind of been slow paced when she had her debut. When she was in WWE, we didn't know how she was doing for the most part, but we shall see what happens in the long run, and we shall see if she's going to be the next step or the future of TNA Wrestling. But we shall see in the long run. But I don't want to take that away from Jordynne Grace. She is the new TNA Knockouts Women's Champion. So she's got a lot of people trying to step up to her door. Also, she has Giselle Saul in the background, probably ready to cash in her Ultimate X to try to get an opportunity for a title shot in the near future. So we shall see what happens in the long run. But let's get back into it. We have the main event of the night. We have Shelley versus Moose. This match was hard-hitting from start finish. 2 TNA originals, not necessarily TNA originals. We have one of the TNA originals. We have Shelley, and then we have one of the cornerstones of Impact Wrestling, who always wanted to be in TNA Wrestling. We had Moose. He's an original member of the Impact roster. He always glorified. He even had it brought the TNA Championship back a couple years back, where he basically wanted to make it a forefront of the division. He wanted to be back in TNA. He enjoyed it, and so they brought TNA back, and he was in the main event as being on Showcase, and you couldn't go wrong with that whatsoever. The match was hard hitting from start to finish. Couldn't go wrong with this match whatsoever. These boys put on a clinic in the main event, and they did basically everything they could. Moose and Alex Shelley traded so many high spots, including apron spots, spine busters. They've said enough with some clotheslines. They hit off with a couple of their finishers, a couple of trade chops, and you couldn't go wrong with this main event. This main event was great from start to finish. And these boys, I'm looking for them to go at it again because this is the future of TNA wrestling. To continue to do this, depending on this showcase, it'll be the future of wrestling. Look at TNA. TNA delivered the whole entire night, and you couldn't go wrong with it whatsoever. I enjoyed it, and we ended up having a brand new TNA World Champion. Moose ended up picking up the victory. Alex Shelley did everything he possibly could. He tried to hit a couple of his trademarks, but it wasn't enough to pick the big man Moose down. And Moose is now officially the TNA World Champion. And now the system is on the first steps of being taken over TNA Wrestling. So we shall see what happens in the long run. And then we had a post match, which we had a surprising one. We had Dolph Ziggler, also known as also known as Dolph Ziggler, but we have Nick Nemeth making his debut in TNA Wrestling as the post match, and he made his debut in TNA Wrestling, and that was kind of exciting seeing him making his return back in TNA Wrestling, and we're gonna see what he goes from here. He played his card, he showed up, his music theme pick. Moose was caught off guard from the fans. He super kicked them. Um, and sent the fan happy in Vegas. Whoever was there tonight, hopefully you guys enjoyed yourselves. You couldn't go wrong with that. Having Nick Nemeth as a new TNA entry into TNA roster. So we shall see where this story picks up from there. Couldn't go wrong with these two boys going back and forth when it came to Moose and Nick Nemeth. Kind of a little showcase himself, but we never know what can happen in the long run. Hopefully, we'll see what happens and go from there. But all the while, appreciate all you guys coming out for this short little review. I'm just testing the waters, seeing how this comes about. But I appreciate you guys all showing love, prosperous love. You guys be safe out there, and you guys have a wonderful evening and have a good night. Peace.
Is this still rolling?